Hey guys, welcome back to my craft room. So today we are doing another crafty book talk, and this month I read How Art Made the World, A Journey to the Origins of Human Creativity by Nigel Spivey. Apparently it is a TV show, I believe, because it says see it on PBS. Um, but basically it is a book going through the different kind of eras and also topics. It sounds kind of strange how I'm putting this, but the symbolism behind what was created during those eras. Yeah, I think that works out pretty well, that sentence. But basically, we go through different tribes and different, like the Romans, we see Julius Caesar, we see Mark Antony, we see Cleopatra, we see um, some biblical references. Oh goodness, like it's just jam-packed with history. You are definitely going to learn something with this book. If it's art related or history related, I think I found a lot more history related things that were interesting, that were rather new to me. But I mean, there were some other art things as well that really intrigued me as well. But I think it's more history, like just like it goes by dates and whatnot. Although it would have been nice to have a timeline, because they don't. I feel like this happens in every book. They don't have a set timeline. Like, they go by topic rather than time. So every time they talk about, like, this tribe, they'll talk about it in this topic in this chapter. But then halfway through the book, oh, we're talking about that tribe again. So if you're not really looking at dates and, um, like, really paying attention to, how this tribe spelled their name, then it's going to get a little confusing. So that's why I'm thinking, maybe a timeline would have been really nice, but I don't know. I guess it's not really necessary. I think I'm just one that I don't see. I can't picture where events occur unless it's visible. I'm a very visual learner, I guess. With art, makes sense, right? Visual learners, but that's something that I wish would have occurred in this book. And then also, let me see if I can pull up. They have a bunch of images of different art pieces. Oh, and they're just gorgeous. I tagged my favorite. There she is. And it talks about certain aspects of it. It talks about... Oh, I just realized I probably shouldn't have shown that. So there's like another piece. Sorry, I can't line it up right. There we go. But they do this strange thing where they're like, see figure 15, and it's on a separate page, or sometimes even you have to flip the page to see it. And that really bugs me, because when I want to, also when they do like definitions in other books, but when I see an image, I want it to be correlating with the text. I don't want to have to jump and then I have to look back and I lose my place. It bugs me. I think that's just, another aesthetic thing in my brain. But, like, when they do the little asterisks, and you have to look down at the bottom of the page. You read it, then you go back up. It's like, why don't you just include that within like brackets or parentheses or something, instead of, you know, making that separate jump. I know it would probably make the book longer, but I think I'm always about the ease of flow. I don't like to be interrupted. I guess. I don't know. Sounds strange. But anyways, so we talk about different tribes. But to begin with, we talk about birds and animals and, you know, children. And we talk about how their art, well, art, because in this book it's specified differently. But we talk about like the bower bird and how they collect blue and pink and red objects and build it into their nest so that the female will be attracted, and then, you know, the birds and the bees. I feel like you can't really gloss over this kind of stuff because it's the whole book. There are nudes everywhere. But anyways, I think that's just art in general. You can't get away from that kind of subject. Alright, anyways, back to the book. So if you have a faint of heart and you don't like reading about, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, there wasn't really that much. I don't know. But, like, you know, the sculptures that you always see, they're, you know, they're nude and whatnot. Because mostly they're Greek, but there's a ton of them in here. So if you're faint of heart, don't look at it. Or have like a little sticky note and just like every time you see it, just boop. Okay. I'm rambling. So they talk about that and they're like, well, it's not really considered art for this sake of purpose. Their definition of art for the book purpose is it has to be created with imagination. That is what they are defining art as for this book. So the bird doesn't have an imagination, they just see the color and it'll, yeah, okay. I think it's coming across. Another thing is they talk about how artists do have like strange opinions, especially the big ones who, you know, have done images that are not like realism. They create a human, but it's exaggerated or just different, and that tends to be the more popular, which is very interesting. But they quote quite a bit, well, quote, they say the human in the art is more human than a human. Because it's so perfect normally. Their artists are normally so focused on symmetry and, you know, making sure every measurement is correct. But in reality, humans are, their nature, you know, they're strange. They're not exact mathematics, even though it talks about how some artists do that. Like the Egyptians. And then someone else, but I can't remember who it was. I think he was Greek. And then it also talks about how some things are taken from other things, like the mathematics. Someone looked and saw how they did it in one section of the world and then copied. And then also there's the whole, well, actually, I think I have it bookmarked here, so I don't butcher what the phrase says. Shock of the old world, or shock of the old. Basically, things are just reinvented all the time, and it's shocking to see, how something can be the same from so many years ago that you didn't even really see, but it just kind of occurred, which I think is, like, crazy. I think that there's, like, a time and place for everything, and people, like, a group of people see or think of the same thing without it being... My train of thought is going wacky on this thought. But basically, like, there's two ideas out in the world. It's not just one idea that comes to the person. It's kind of an idea that the universe kind of needs. I know that's probably so strange. Coming a lot of my thoughts are just very scrambled, so... So another thing is they talk about cliched language with people who look at these art pieces and they're like, oh wow, that's amazing, that's astonishing. And it's a cliched language because people are so used to, oh, you think this is cool, so I'm going to say it's cool so that I'm not wrong. So I'll just use this word that, it says what I want it to say, but I don't actually mean it, or it's not the right word or the right opinion that I'm thinking. So I think that was really neat because I tend to say, oh wow, that turned out great, or that's amazing how that ended up, and I don't realize that I'm using these words so often, and I need to portray my opinion a little bit better. I know most people won't think of, those words as being bad per se, but I think that it's a good idea to kind of broaden your language when you're thinking about something that was created. Because saying one word, I don't think is enough to really justify or give the love or I don't know what I'm trying to say. The attention, no. The devotion, no, that's not. I think you guys understand what I'm saying, though. It doesn't give that oomph that you're trying to say when you're looking at someone's creation. Yeah. So the different tribes, it talks about how they have the cave drawings, like in tight, rocky spaces, and why are they doing those paintings in there, where you're not going to be really seeing it as often. And also, it's images of things that they do not eat, which I thought was very interesting. And also is things not often seen, like stars or animals like lions, things that they haven't often done, or also spiritual records that they do through the paintings. Another thing is they talk about those little dots that they put around, like, horses and stuff. We always thought that it was because it was supposed to be like the soul of the animal or whatever. A lot of, like, things like that, my preconceived thoughts, or what people have told me before, like in history classes, art classes, this book really did not confirm those. They have, like, so many different theories, because that's what everything really is. It's just a bunch of theories, and you just have to pick the one that you like the most, or you think is the most relevant, or whatever. So it's very interesting to see a different point of view, because I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, probably, but because I've been told so many times that, you know, that's the envisioning of a spiritualistic animal on that cave drawing, I wouldn't have thought, to kind of view that as something else. But it's because it's a, what is it called? Oh gosh. Suspension of reality? No. But basically, it's when your mind or your eyes are seeing something that aren't there. Your eyes are seeing something in your eyes or your brain. This is coming out so strange. It's very hard to just generalize what the book was saying, so you gotta bear with me here. But basically, like, if you're on drugs, okay, you're gonna see, floating orbs, you're gonna see things growing out of the floor. So they think that that is what they were seeing, because they would do these ritual dances and then they would go back and paint what they saw as a record. But what it was really was them seeing something in their brain, because something was taking their mind out of reality. In the first half of the book, I had to look up so many things. Like, I was on constantly Googling. But I learned a lot, so. So basically, all of these theories that, kind of take away from what you normally feel about art and whatnot, it kind of allows you to respond to art in a better way. Because I feel so many people talk about art in a certain way, and it closes it off. Because, like, if people always say, realism is the only kind of art, it's the best art, and then if you can't do it, you feel so defeated. And when they talk about a difference in, artists' opinions back then, and it's great. It's a great read, I gotta say. It was challenging, but pleasurable to read. I don't normally find too many challenging books, so this one was great. It really stretched my mind. It was good. You really learn something new as you read it. You're going to find at least something. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I want to make sure I got all of my bullet points, because there was so much in here. Oh, and they also included a little segment about stories. So they talked about how, people would talk stories, narrate, and then they would turn those into drawings, or sometimes they would do drawings and then it would turn into a story. And that was so interesting that they included that, because sometimes people don't see the art in it, and it was great. And they talked about, like, cinema today, and how, that's practically art too, because, you're telling the story, and you have to go through different forms of how to keep the audience captivated and whatnot. Oh, so great. But yeah, everything in the book is pretty much divided by topic, like history and power, or art and power, art and death. Like, it's kind of divided by topic, and it has a broad history for each. Like I was saying before with the timeline, it has, like, ranging from BC to AD, and different eras in between. It kind of rhymes. That was cool. But anyways, so it kind of gives you a feeling of not just learning history, I guess, by doing that. It gives a little bit of a breakup. I don't know. But I thought it was a fantastic read. The middle part was a little sketchy, but oh, sketchy. No, there's no sketches. Actually, I think, yeah, there are Egyptian sketches. But I think it's great to look at the pictures, um, also to pick out little pieces of history, also to pick out different meanings of, artists' rendition. I think it's a very great overall book that I'm probably going to keep on my shelf for a while because I think you can pull out so much out of this book that you're going to need to do another read or at least another look through at least the pictures. But I think it was worth it. It kind of feels a little bit on the textbook side, but it still has a little bit of a fun pop. I know that sounds so nerdy. Oh, and especially if you are going to like do your SATs and stuff. Big words. Alright guys, that's all I got from, well, for this video. Hopefully I intrigued you into this book, or even the TV show, or it might be a movie, I don't know. But I might have to look into that. I definitely want to buy like some copies of these artworks though. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me today in Crafty Book Talk of this book. That's probably going to be How Art Made the World, A Journey to the Origins of Human Creativity. Pretty great read. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a crazy day. Good crazy, not bad crazy. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!